Is the Sanders campaign really over? Well, Bernie says it is, so I guess we should take him at his word, right? Maybe. I'm not so sure. Here he is.
We are now some 300 delegates behind Vice President Biden, and the path toward victory is virtually impossible. So while we are winning the ideological battle, and while we are winning the support of so many young people and working people throughout the country, I have concluded that this battle for the Democratic nomination will not be successful. And so today, I am announcing the suspension of my campaign.
Okay. Open and shut case. He says he's suspending his campaign. He's suspending his campaign. Except the thing with Bernie is Bernie never just gives up. Bernie never just goes away. So as I'm listening to this, I'm just waiting for the turn, the but, the however, the although in the statement. And eventually it comes because Bernie's dropping out of the race, but he's not endorsing Joe Biden. He's not releasing his delegates to Joe Biden. And he doesn't even want to stop winning delegates in the Democratic primary. Sure doesn't sound quite like he's dropping out to me.
Let me also say this. I will stay on the ballot in all remaining states and continue to gather delegates. While Vice President Biden will be the nominee, we must continue working to assemble as many delegates as possible at the Democratic convention, where we will be able to exert significant influence over the party platform and other functions. Then together, standing united, we will go forward to defeat Donald Trump, the most dangerous president in modern American history.
Bernie, you scheming communist. Now we are going to be dropping out of the race, except we're going to continue to be on all of the ballots, and I encourage all of you to vote for me, and I want to get many more delegates. But look, Joe Biden, he's totally going to be the nominee, right? But give me all the delegates, and we'll see what happens at the convention. Okay, not much of an endorsement of Joe Biden. What's going on here? Well, a few things, I think. Bernie Sanders has never been the leading man, right? Bernie Sanders has always been the thorn in the side of Democrats. And so it very well may be the case that Bernie Sanders is just going to try to build up his leverage and get some more delegates and then go to the convention and try to make them a little bit more socialist, though I suspect he won't succeed at that. However, I'm not totally convinced that that's the case. I'm not totally convinced Joe Biden is going to be the nominee, and from what Bernie says, it doesn't quite sound like that either. I think there's a lot of uncertainty now as to who the nominee is going to be. I love that right now Joe Biden is the only candidate left in the Democratic presidential race, and his old boss, Barack Obama, still hasn't endorsed him. It's very strange. You would expect Obama to endorse Joe Biden very early. Certainly would have expected him to endorse Joe Biden by the time he looked like he locked up the nomination. He hasn't even endorsed him now that he's the last guy in the race. And I think Bernie Sanders is looking at that, and I think the Democratic establishment is looking at that, and I think Andrew Cuomo in New York is looking at that, and they're saying, I don't know if Joe is going to be the guy. So Bernie Sanders is doing the responsible thing. It's kind of the PR move that he has to do to get out of the race, especially with coronavirus, because he's not allowed to campaign, he's not allowed to hold rallies, he's considered to be imperiling people's health if he even encourages them to go out to vote. So he's kind of been backed into a corner here by the Democratic establishment, and I guess by this coronavirus, and he can't really move one way or the other. So he's got to drop out, but he's dropping out without really dropping out. He's dropping out while still trying to have a lot of influence at the convention. In any case, no matter what Bernie's designs are, it does seem as though his campaign ultimately is over. It's headed for destruction. Does look as though Bernie's come to the end of the line of his career in American politics, which has now spanned 5 decades. And assuming all of that is true, I would just like to say, Bernie Sanders is an anti-American old communist who has campaigned his entire life for an evil ideology that should be rejected by every decent human being. Everything Bernie has ever contributed to politics is evil, and we are all better off now that his career is over. And if I could spit on the grave of his campaign, I would do it. There. I wanted really to have a nice moment to say goodbye to the Bernie campaign. I mean it. It's terrible. There's nothing good to say about it. His career has been awful. It has been a pox on American politics. The whole country would have been so much better off if that man had never run for any office in Burlington, Vermont, or elsewhere. And I'm very, very, very pleased to know that his career is over, or soon to be over. Now, that means that as of now, the very likely nominee is going to be Joe Biden. But it doesn't mean that Bernie Sanders has had no impact on the Democratic Party. You know, part of Bernie's farewell to the troops, is to say, even though we lost the electoral battle, we've actually won the ideological war. And I have to say, the sad fact is, Bernie's 50-year career has actually been somewhat effective, at least on changing the conversation within the Democratic Party.
Good morning, and thank you very much for joining me. I want to express to each of you my deep gratitude for helping to create an unprecedented grassroots political campaign that has had a profound impact in changing our nation.
It has. It has. Before Bernie Sanders really exploded in 2016, some of these radical socialist policies were simply unacceptable. The moniker socialist was unacceptable in American politics. Without Bernie Sanders, there's no way that you see AOC and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and the whole squad and all the people who were avowedly socialist. You know, Bernie, when he became a senator in 2006, he was an independent, but he referred to himself as a socialist. This was so shocking to people. Now it's been normalized, and actually the majority of young Americans identify as socialist, even though only 32% of them can actually define what socialism is. Still, that's a big sea change. If you enjoyed that video, and let's be honest, of course you did. I hope you did. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so everyone wading through the wasteland of YouTube knows that we have the best content out there.